So welcome everyone to our special Veterans Program. We're so delighted to have you. I'm going to turn it over in a minute to my co-chair, Irene Litzis. And we've been working together on the Melville Women's Chamber for the past couple of years. And Irene's going to go over some ground rules for us.
Thank you, Susan. And it has been a wonderful 2 years that we've been working together. So thank you for being an amazing co-chair. And here's our ground rules. We have a beautiful new slide. Thank you to the Next Gen group, to Siobhan and Monica. So you're able to see and read and have the ground rules. Put yourself on mute unless you're speaking, and put your camera and video on for all us to see you. And we want to see your name to identify you, and to please also utilize the chat. We encourage you to share your contact information and any questions and feedback. The presenters will be recorded, so sit back and relax and have fun and network.
Wonderful. So in terms of the agenda, we are, after our introductions, we're going to hear from the American Air Power Museum. Then we're going to hear from Rosemary, who's written some beautiful poetry, the first of her poems. Then we're going to hear from our veteran, Joe Cognitori. And after that, we're going to hear from veteran advocate, Virginia Servasio. And we're going to close it out with another poem, closing remarks, and we'll stay on for a little longer for some interaction for Q&A and discussion. A bit about the women's group of Melville Chamber. We're really about sharing resources and opening doors. And today, 3 of our core values in particular are going to be highlighted, and that's around education, collaboration, and connection. I guess one could argue visibility, as we're raising awareness of veterans advocacy and what they're going through. And if you want to be part of our magic, we welcome you here at the Melville Chamber, and we're all about economic and business development. More information can be found at www.melvillechamber.org. And our upcoming events on November 17th, we're going to have a virtual business resource roundtable with People's United Bank about fraud prevention for business and personal accounts. And save the date of December 1st at 8:30 a.m. We're going to be having a special program with Leslie Tain, one of our members, on how to build and maintain your reputation. And now I'm going to turn it over to our first guest speaker. We're honored to have Julia Loria Bloom. A bit about Julia. She's the curator of the Women's Air Force Service Pilots exhibit over at the American Air Power Museum. And for many years, she's researched women pioneers in aviation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Julia.
Thank you, Susan. It's so nice to meet you all and have me as a part of this. The American Air Power Museum is located at the former site of Republic Aviation Corp., which was one of the manufacturers considered the arsenal of democracy during World War II. It was established, the museum, in 1998, and we maintain an aviation artifact and aircraft collection. Most of our aircraft are operational, as well as we also have static aircraft, many relating to Republic Aviation. We offer flight experiences on our C-47 aircraft, which flew during the Normandy D-Day invasion. And we have many static displays, including our Josie the Riveter display, POWs, the Women Air Force Service Pilots, or the WASP. We have exhibits on engines, Republic Aviation. We have a mobile control tower used during World War II. We have a movie theater with war images. We have Vietnam exhibits, newspaper exhibits from the 40s primarily, radio exhibits, USO exhibits, and another one that I curated, the Women War Correspondents of World War II. In World War II, 350,000 women served in the WACs with the Army, the WAVES with the Navy, the WASP with the Army Air Force, the SPARS with the, all of us, Semper Paratus, always ready, with the Coast Guard, and the Women Marines. By 1945, women comprised 36.1% of the civilian workforce. And at the height of the war, over 19 million women entered the workforce in all aspects. The WASP started out as an organization called the WAFs, the Women's Auxiliary Ferry Squadron. And it was combined with the Jackie Cochran's organization, the Women's Flight Training Department and Detachment, and became the WASP, the Women Air Force Service Pilots. The WASP exhibit, which you see on the bottom panel, opened in June of 2001. It was dedicated by Governor George Pataki and the presence of 8 Women Air Force Service pilots who are now, unfortunately, all deceased. At the time of World War II, 1,100 women flew military aircraft for the Army Air Force throughout the United States as civilians. It was started as a civilian organization, and they ferried, they trained pilots, they did every kind of testing except combat, and this was to relieve male combat pilots for overseas duty. Between 1942 of September and their disbandment in December of 1944, they flew and transported every type of Army aircraft in the US Army Air Forces. They towed targets, they flew administrative flights, cargo, and in that 2.5 time period, 38 of the women died. As civilians, they were not entitled to any kind of benefits, burial benefits or insurance, because they were supposed to be militarized and it didn't happen. The war ended and they were sent home. In 1977, they received veteran status, and in 2010, they received the Congressional Gold Medal, of which I was present in Washington to receive posthumously for a friend of mine. The other exhibit that you see on the top came later on. That's the Women Who Wrote the War, and that was opened in May 2014. And with the arrival of World War II, the emergence of American women in the field of journalism yielded 127 accredited war correspondents. Some of the names you might know: Margaret Bourke-White, Lee Miller, Martha Gellhorn, and they reported the war both here on the home front and overseas. They created much compelling imagery and news reports, and this exhibit encompasses the bios of about 9 of them, many of them who came from New York. And this would be a camp situation for the women overseas. This tent would pretty much resemble the kind of accommodations they had when they were in the battlefield, in the overseas duty. Some of the local women were, well, like I said, Margaret Bourke-White and Lee Miller, and you also had Dorothea Lange, famous photographer. She wasn't local, but she's also one of the women that's covered there. And we also have an exhibit on the Tuskegee Airmen, and so many to mention. I mentioned some of them before, but our mission is to honor veterans past, present, and future. And we are a very hands-on living history museum. We started with living historians and World War II veterans who have now since passed, but it's a hands-on type of museum. And it's a time capsule. When you walk in there, it's like you're entering another world. And it's just history that needs to be remembered and told. And we welcome you to come and love to see you there.
Thank you so much,
You're
Julia.
welcome.
There's so much richness of history in the museum right in our backyard. So welcome
Yes.
everybody to come and fascinated by your research. So now what I'd like to do is turn it over to our event chair, Rosemary Klupfel. She's a committee member. She is also the assistant branch manager of Fairway Independent Mortgage, as well as the Long Island liaison for the Fairway Mortgage Foundation and a veterans advocate. Over to you, Rosemary.
Thank you so much, Susan, and also to Irene and our other committee members for helping us put this together. It's greatly appreciated. I have been speaking on behalf of veterans for the last 5 or 6 years, and I found this to be a very important subject matter. And since tomorrow is Veterans Day, I appreciate the opportunity for the Melville Chamber of Commerce, especially the Women's Committee, to have this event. Thank you so much. This poem, Remember Me, was actually inspired by a Vietnam veteran who had returned to civilian life and suffered from PTSD. Even though he wound up to get married and have children and work, and he put on a strong facade, he did suffer from PTSD. So for many of you who don't realize that Long Island, it has the second highest population of veterans in the country. The second highest population of veterans in the country, but we don't realize that. So next time you're online at the supermarket or at the bank, just realize that the teller, the clerk, or the person in front of you or behind you may be a veteran, or most likely is related to a veteran. This poem is called Remember Me. Remember me, the boy you knew from up the street, the class in school, crooked smile, my hair too long, once threw papers on your lawn, cut my hair, how tall I've grown, first gray suit I've ever owned, had a job, but not for long. Remember me, the boy you knew, told to sign on the dotted line, took an oath, a soldier now, gave a salute as flags waved on, fought in war, saw bombs deployed, some were hurt, not all survived, brothers lost, no time to mourn. Remember me, the boy you knew, finished up my final tour, sent me home, told get a job, forget the past, you'll be just fine. Hard to sleep, can't close my eyes, still see the faces and hear the cries of the men that were once boys too. This morning we have Joe Conditori. He is currently the commander of the VFW in Rocky Point. Joe is himself a Vietnam veteran. He was drafted in 1969, towards the end of the Vietnam War. He served as a platoon sergeant, and he was involved in heavy fighting. For his efforts to care for his men and distinguish himself in battle, the VFW commander was awarded the Bronze Star. When he returned, he became part of management at Coca-Cola. And he was like many of the 2.5 million Vietnam veterans who were not warmly received when they returned. Unlike the World War II veterans that were greeted with parades, many of our servicemen were shunned upon. He was able to cope with, from what he experienced because of the love of his wife and children. He has gone on to become a veteran advocate, speaking out publicly at government events, both here on Long Island and in Albany, trying to assist our fellow veterans. And Joe, can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and what the needs are for those right here on Long Island?
Yes, thank you, Rosemary, and very nice poem. It really hits home. When I got out of the service in 71, I joined the VFW in Farmingdale, only because my father was the chaplain and my uncle was the commander. I went in there once, and that was to borrow money from my father. I was looking for work and running around, and I guess didn't know it at the time, trying to hide behind anything I could. But moving forward, I moved out to Rocky Point, and during the first Gulf War, it really hit me. It hit me so hard that I went to the VFW here in Rocky Point in '91 and walked down, and the room was filled with World War II veterans. And sorry to say, all those veterans are long gone, and we have one World War II veteran left on our post. But since that day, I continue to thrive on helping our veterans overseas, forgetting the past and trying to go forward. We sent packages to the troops. We did numerous fundraisers and things like that to help the troops, and we pushed forward and have never stopped since that day. I would think almost every day I do something, whether it's on the computer or out in the field here, helping veterans or talking to veterans and trying to get them in the right direction. I'm no professional, so I try to push them to the right way. After 9/11, that hit me very hard. And myself and Rich Acrotelli, a teacher from Rocky Point High School, member of the Post, we proceeded to put monuments up to depict those that had fallen during 9/11. So if you go to Coram, Diamonds in the Pines, Coram Park in Brookhaven, you'll see a beautiful memorial, a statue of and sayings depicting all the things of 9/11 and tribute to them with an eagle on top. The following year, we recognized the dogs that were at Ground Zero, and we have a dog memorial there also. All those particular monuments have steel from the 9/11 site. We continue to do that to show all those, not only at that time, but in future days, and remind them what happened to all our people and the country at that egregious site down in New York. We continue to put some memorials up. Eagle Scouts put one up in right in front of our post, and we have two big pieces of steel depicting the towers. We also put some steel at the Rocky Point High School to remind those in the community. We continue to forge forward with monuments. I feel that history is very important, especially to our younger generation. We continue to go out into the community and make sure that we all know this month, unfortunately because of COVID, we haven't gone to visit any of the schools to help our veterans and help those students understand what we went through or what they went through at 9/11 and in their military histories. So we always go to about 5 or 6 schools, and they're not just one time in, one time out. The actual programs now that the schools sponsor. We continue to go forward in our community with all our veterans. At the post level, we're always reaching out to those in need. We're always helping those that need a little help with their oil delivery, need some repairs on their cars. We have a special program that we have with the neighboring towns. We have a consortium that American Legions, VFWs, the Moose Lodge, and Elks Clubs. And we do one big fundraiser, and we have a pot that we pick out of for helping those veterans. Now we continue on our charge daily, like I say, and we've created a Bible study group in our post, and that's open to all. And this group does things on the outside also to help those with post-traumatic stress or needs and things like that. I know someone will be talking about that, which is very important today, so I won't expand on that. But as far as the post is concerned, we reach out to all. One of our biggest events that we do is a golf outing, and that golf outing raises over $30,000, and we're only a small post. It's grown. This year we had our 13th annual, and with all the proceeds that we get from that, we give back. And I think that's part of the biggest thing that a veteran can do today is to give back. And this particular year, we awarded the Long Island State Veterans Home, $10,000. The Joseph Dwight Peer-to-Peer Group, $2,500. Cause of War, $500, and so on. Now, we've been doing this for the past 13 years. Some of our past recipients were Matias Ferreira, Deshaun Briggs. He lost his life a couple of years back, and we supported that family also with $10,000, his family. So our post always gives out and maintains a high level of security for all those veterans that need help. So we continue to do these, and this is all volunteer. I'm so proud of the members of our post, the men and women of Post 6249, and we do this daily. Actually, we work with other organizations, and I feel the best way to do anything is to work with other organizations, and I think you get more out of it. As soon as you reach out and they reach back, the power is very, very high. We were doing in '91 when I first got into the Rocky Point. Like I said, my concentration was on the men and women overseas, and we'd send packages. We'd go to BJ's, etc., buy all the product, come down the basement, sort it all out, make the packages, bring them back up, go to the post office. Well, I realized that Operation Veronica in Rocky Point, they meet every week on a Friday. Janet Godfrey and her group do an extensive job of mailing every week to all our troops. So I kind of married with them, and we bought some supplies, and I would take up some of the cost of the packages. We had an open door policy that any schools or any organizations that raised items for the troops, I would meet them at the post office, and we paid the fare. And that just put everything going forward is a big charge. And that kind of grew. And there would be times, and I'm kind of happy we're not doing it now, because it seems like those people overseas, or the troop men and women overseas today, aren't as much as we had. And that's a good thing. And as we speak today, we've tried to find some troops. And I reached out to Michigan, and we have 25 troops that we're going to send to this coming holiday. So we continue to do this, and anyone that needs product or goods overseas, just give us a call and we'll help out. Like I said, it's very important that you reach out to the community for all these veterans. We ourselves try to maintain a high level of, concern for all our men and women. These men and women today, they have 1, 2, or 3 tours. They miss their birthdays, their childbirths of their spouses. So it's very hard for them. So when they come back, we need to help them. And I know there's a lot of people out there trying to gather some of the information together, especially for the post-traumatic stress, which I think is a big factor today, especially with COVID, everybody being cornered and held up in their homes and stuff like that. So again, we're a charitable, fraternal, patriotic organization, and we like to preserve and strengthen the comradeship among its members. So we will continue to move forward. All right, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Joe. Your contact information is in the presentation, and we will send out a follow-up email so everyone has everyone's contact. And of course, we're also collecting today for more donations for our service men and women that are deployed. Joe, you mentioned PTSD, and we're going to have Virginia speak in a few minutes. I just you reminded me that these dog tags were given to me by a Vietnam veteran. And on the back it says, "Never again will one generation of veterans abandon another." And I think what happened with the Vietnam veterans is they felt abandoned by their prior servicemen. So we have so many men and women who are serving, and PTSD is more discussed than it was back during the Vietnam era being returned. But it was always prevalent. They called it different things: shell shock, combat fatigue. Now we call it PTSD. And now we're trying to actually even get away from the PTSD and just call it PTS, because it's not a disease. It's if you've been in a serious car accident and you were traumatized, you don't want to drive again. But, you know, if you're a serviceman and women and you've been traumatized, you know, you're told to toughen up and just get over it. And I think that is one of the issues that we have to cope with and understand. And I'm glad that mental health has become more of a conversation in our society. We've had some famous people commit suicide, Kate Spade, Robin Williams, and so on and so on. And I think so people are realizing that you can put on this facade that everything's fine and everything not be fine. I thank Joe for all his efforts. He's done so much to help the veteran community on Long Island, not just his Rocky Point, but he's expanded to reach wherever the needs are. And I have to emphasize that we have such a generous community. Long Island is such a generous community, giving community. But our men and women, our veterans are right here on Long Island. So let's help those right here first before we send our resources elsewhere. Help our neighbors. You know, if you see someone struggling, you know, make sure that they are pointed in the right direction. We have a VFW post, American Legion post in almost every town or every other town. So, and a lot of the veterans will definitely try to assist. And if not, contact Joe, contact myself. And I'm going to introduce Virginia right now. Virginia Servacio. She has a bachelor's in sociology. And she's the mother of the late Angelo Merlin Rosarfio, who died by suicide in January of 2006 because of PTSD. In the past 14 years, she has worked diligently to bring suicide awareness and prevention to communities. Since moving back to New York in 2014, Virginia made it her mission to help veterans in need. Heroes Among Us is a 501c3 nonprofit organization and is the result of her persistent efforts to make sure no veteran and their families are ever refused what is needed to help live a healthy life. In August 2019, Heroes Among Us was honored to be chosen as the host of the Vietnam Wall Memorial to display for 4 days. The event brought comfort and healing to many Vietnam veterans and their families. She was recently honored in receiving the Distinguished Service to Veterans Award by Nassau County. In 2016, Virginia received a Linda Nowdell Community Service Award from the Long Island Crisis Center for her dedication to our communities. I met Virginia a couple of years ago, and I thought her story needed to be told. So thank you, Virginia, for joining us. And Virginia, let us know what we could do to help our fellow veterans and our servicemen and women.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rosemary. And thank you very much for allowing me to share the story. I think it's very, very important to talk about PTSD and any kind of mental illness that are plaguing our veterans, because unless we talk about it, it's hidden under the rug, and therefore the suicide rates definitely rise, unfortunately. As Rosemary said, I am the mother of Angelo Servacio. He was Air Force. He joined the Air Force right after he graduated. He graduated high school. 2 weeks later, he was off to boot camp. He always wanted to go into the military because his main goal was to become a FBI agent. So that was like a stepping stone for him. But unfortunately, once 9/11 happened and they sent off the first batch, he was one of them. He served in Operation Southern Watch. And when he came back, he was stationed in Oklahoma City. When he was discharged from the military, we noticed that he just was not himself anymore. His whole character changed. One of the things that I noticed about him is that he refused to talk about his experience. Didn't matter what you asked him, he just walked away. He said, I don't want to talk about it, and that's it. To my knowledge, I don't know if he ever sought any professional help, excuse me, regarding his his PTSD. But his note, the note that he left once he completed the act of suicide, definitely, said otherwise. But he was discharged from the military, and at that time, my husband and I had moved to Florida, and he wanted to become a police officer. And so he actually moved down to Florida, and he went to the police academy, became a police officer. And then within a few years, that's when he took his life. He just couldn't deal with it anymore. His character, he wasn't my son anymore. He was very withdrawn. He was always alone. He never wanted to go out with friends. He never really wanted to have conversations the way we used to have. He didn't want to spend time with us, his family. So we knew something was going on, but of course, we had no idea what was really going on, because suicide is a word that is so taboo that nobody talks about. You never think that it can happen to you until it actually happens. I can guarantee that half the people right here, right now, has been touched by suicide in some way, whether they know a friend, relative, whatever it is, you have been touched by suicide, because that definitely has the ripple effect. It affects everybody that's in the path of the person who completed the act. Unfortunately, right now, I know that compared to the 2019 at this time, veteran suicides has increased by 20%. Some say that it might be due to the COVID crisis. It definitely is putting stress on us, on them. Among the active duty, especially Army personnel, suicides are up to as much as 30% right now. So it doesn't just affect the vets that are discharged. It definitely affects the ones that are right now active duty. As Joe mentioned before, it's not just one tour, it's 2, 3 tours, 4 tours. And that's really what gets them, losing their friends and all that. Because of all of this, I decided, I was living in Florida at the time, like I said, and for 10 years that I was there, I decided to start a suicide prevention organization. I was from Southwest Florida, and they had nothing there. So we decided to be the first suicide prevention organization to specifically concentrate on suicides. It didn't have to be veterans, or it could be anything. So we dealt with 9-year-olds, which were our youngest that completed the act, all the way up to 87, 90-year-olds. And we were involved with the police department. We trained them. We trained 911 operators on how to talk to them when they get calls, the crisis centers. So I'm very proud of what we accomplished there. But when I moved back here, I realized that I did my research, and Long Island, as Rosemary mentioned before, is veterans are like all over Long Island. And where do they get the help? There's so much help that they can receive right now. So I decided to start an organization specifically for vets only. And like other organizations, we do a little bit of everything. We help financially, we help with food, we help mental illness, we help get them psychiatrists, link them to psychiatrists and therapists. We will pay for it. We ask no questions. The only thing they have to show me is that they were actually a vet, they're a veteran, and that's all I care about. And then I meet with them, and then we go forward from there. We are a nonprofit organization. We are all volunteers. So we have only one main event every year, and that's our gala, which is usually held every May. Unfortunately, this past year, we were not able to have it because of COVID. And next year, because of May, we decided to also cancel that. So our next one is actually scheduled for May in 2022. But, we will keep doing what we're doing. We live off of, donations, and we have been very, very fortunate this year to receive some great donations that we're able to continue to help the veterans until we have our next gala. What we are in need of, what I ask and implore all of you to do is, please, if you know a veteran that is in need, please let us know, because that's what we're waiting for. I'm not going to ask for donations. I'm not going to ask for anything like that. What I want is, I want to know if there's a veteran in need, because we want to be able to help. We pay mortgages, we pay rent, we pay, like Joe said, anything and everything. We like to team up with other nonprofits that help veterans, because I believe that two are better than one. And if we, the resources that we all have together, we will be able to help them much better than, than standing alone. The Long Island Crisis Center is an organization as well. They're located in Belmore, and what they do is they deal specifically with suicide. So if you are familiar with anyone, it doesn't have to be a veteran actually for Long Island Crisis Center, but if you know of a veteran that, you know their character, you're going to know if something is off, or if you hear of someone, don't hesitate to approach them. Don't hesitate to ask, are you feeling okay? Are you feeling, do you feel like you're going to be hurt? You want to hurt yourself? When you are straightforward, when you talk straightforward, you're going to get a straight answer. So don't be surprised if that's what they're going to say is yes. So make sure that you have your resources handy. The only thing I can say is that suicide does exist. I was thrown into this club of being part of suicide, being a suicide survivor, because my son decided at that one instant, that one moment, to complete. It changed my whole family. It changed the way we see life. It changed the way we go on our daily lives. Everybody deals with it differently in my family. But I can tell you that it definitely has brought us closer together. And it gave us the passion to work with anyone who is contemplating, especially the veterans. Joe, I would be honored, Heroes Among Us would be honored to help you in any way we can. We would love to team up with you, and anybody else that's, Barry, I love you. Thank you so much for being part of this today and for joining us and for your service. Anything that we can do, please let me know. I know I'm mumbling over here. I want to say so much and there's only so little, time. Familiarize yourself with the organizations in your area. Familiarize yourself. Get involved. Don't hesitate to go there and say, what can I do for you? Because that's the way we solve this problem. One step at a time, one step at a time. So I can't thank you enough for allowing me to be here and for sharing my story, for sharing my son. This is the way I feel that I keep his legacy moving forward, and and everybody remembers him, because the things that I will not do, I will not allow his death to be for nothing. Something has to come out of it. Something good has to come out of it, and I believe that has been done. So we are Heroes Among Us. That's our organization name. You can call us, you can email us, you can visit our website. Rosemary has it all in the PowerPoint. And she'll share all the contacts, but thank you again. I really appreciate being here today and sharing the story. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia.
Rosemary, can I say something?
Sure, Joe.
Thank you, Virginia, for sharing that story. I know it's very, very hard. It's amazing what post-traumatic stress has caused to all our veterans. This December 6th, tentative date, we have a statue going up in Rocky Point on corner of Broadway and 25A, and we've worked on this for the last couple of years, and this will be a statue depicting Joseph Dwyer and the peer-to-peer group. And if you do or don't know, Joseph Dwyer was from the local area here, Mount Sinai, and died of his wounds when he came home. And he's the statue that you may see him walking out of combat with a child in his arms. So to me, it's tragic. But like I said, we like to make monuments or statues so people will know and respect us And on that date, 11 o'clock, that's the plan. The base is in. It was supposed to be done this past week, but the statue stayed in Colorado, and it'll be coming out on December 6th. So if anybody would like to come, yes. And Virginia, I would very much like to meet you, and hopefully we can get together. I'd like to thank Rosemary also and Fairway for the home in Mastic. What they went through there is unbelievable. The time, work, and effort and dollars spent to make a veteran whole. I thank you again for all that, Rosemary and Fairway, for that effort. It was unbelievable what they did there in that particular home. Again,
Thank you, Joe.
it's just putting forward, paying back and putting forward, and that's all we can ask and help and do in today's day. And again, thank you, Virginia, for sharing that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. What Joe was alluding to is I'm the Long Island Community Liaison for the Fairway Foundation. It's the 501c3 arm of my employer, Fairway Independent Mortgage Corp. And what we did is we raised enough money to buy a home, and we renovated it, and we awarded it to a Purple Heart recipient, a wounded veteran, had served multiple tours in Afghanistan. That was our way of trying to give back, and also help someone deal with their PTSD. The veteran that we selected was actually selected by a group of other veterans, Joe himself included, made the selection. And we did this because this gentleman was pre-suicidal, and we wanted to give him a reason to live because he was struggling. So that was a big undertaking, but we each can do something small. Say hello, a smile, show some concern, bring in the garbage cans. My own daughter enlisted last year, and it was a surprise. It was a shock. She's actually in California now training. She's a second lieutenant in the Army Reserve. And I said to her, "You sure this is what you want to do?" Because even though I've been a veteran advocate for years, it never was this close. And my concern is PTSD. Her name is Alexa. She's 24. She looks more like a supermodel than a second lieutenant. So I said to her, "There's a child. They're carrying a backpack. They're walking toward you and your fellow soldiers. What's in the backpack? You have to decide in a second, split second, whether or not that child is the enemy, or is just a child." That split second decision can change your entire life. Right or wrong. This is what our servicemen and women have to deal with when they get back. There are too many Angelos out there. And it may be your daughter next, your son next. Maybe it's your uncle, your grandfather, but it's definitely your neighbors. It's definitely your neighbors. We have on today, we have Rena Sylvester has joined us this morning. And she's another woman trying to make a difference to help veterans. And Rena is the owner and founder of Cooking for Long Island Veterans. Because something as simple as food, something as basic as food is needed to help our veterans. Virginia has taken money out of her own pockets before she started Hero Among Us to make sure veterans did not go without, that they had an outlet, they had hope. We can each give that to someone. An ear, a hand, a push in the right direction. So Rena, are you on? Can you share a little bit about what you're doing and why you started Cooking for Long Island Veterans? Can you unmute yourself, Rena?
There we go. Okay, I'm not very good at doing stuff.
Thank you for
having
joining
me.
us, Rena.
And I'm going to try to keep it relatively, curt. But I started with veterans years ago. I ran a club with my school. I was a teacher. I retired a few years ago, and we sent packages to the deployed. I would always, before I sent a package to the deployed, I would talk to them about what they wanted. And this is not a negative about anybody that's sending packages, but there are certain things that are in a regular care package that they either tell me, they tell me that they have so much of, or they really don't want. Example, and I don't even remember who said it, but they're like, we don't want candy, we want healthy food. They wanted, at that point when I first started, they wanted the New York Times classifieds because they didn't have internet, and some of them were retiring. So when I sent a care package, I sent what they asked for exactly, not whatever I felt like sending. So that went on for, close to a decade. Then towards the end, we started sending dinners to 2 veteran groups, one that had a band practice not too far from the school that I taught at. And then the other one was the Marine Corps League. On Friday nights, they got together for camaraderie. Eventually, with COVID, some of the older veterans reached out to me. They were not going out. Their Meals on Wheels was awful. That was their words, not mine. And they just were wondering if they could get some home cooked meals. And we started that with 1, 2, 3. Now we have close to 60. And unfortunately, we have a waiting list. And we also have to, we actually have to cut some people out because we are turning into almost like a Meals on Wheels, all home cooked foods. Nothing that, I don't know if you've ever seen Meals on Wheels, but it's like they'll give you a can of tuna sometimes or a can of soup. They get from my program, if they're on the list, they get 3 breakfast, 3 lunch, and 3 dinner minimum once a week. So they get a box for the week. And many of the like the soups are from Panico's Community Market. Many people cook once a week for me beef goulash. They might make rice pudding. We have egg sandwiches, blah, blah, blah. So they will often get more than 3 breakfast, 3 lunch, 3 dinner, but that's the minimum. So it's turned into a real need, and not necessarily because they're financially needy. And that's again why we're kind of turning into a Meals on Wheels where they can give a donation if they're not financially needy, but they can't stand up or they can't go shopping, they lost their license, they can't drive, they are blind in one eye. So all those things are preventing them from eating a nutritious and delicious meal. Any other questions?
Thank you, Rena. And how could we reach out? How could we contact you if we wanted to assist? I'm sure.
We are working on a website. If anybody has any idea on how to help me get the website, I've had a lot of people tell me they would do it, and it's never come to fruition. We did pay our GoDaddy yearly fee probably back in March or April. I am not computer savvy. I didn't know how to unmute myself here. And so we are trying to work on a website. We applied for our 501c3 in August. We had our first fundraiser. We are busting from the seams. So we are doing a garage renovation in my garage. We literally are tripping over stuff, storage containers, donated produce and stuff like that. So we really need hands to help me clean my garage out, hands to help deliver. We need hands to cook. We need hands that'll connect us to any place that might have outdated, cheese or outdated produce that would donate to us, because outdated does not mean bad. The date on anything is a sell-by date. I'm sorry, my phone is going off. So, you know, there's so many different ways to help us. We have a Facebook page called Cooking for Long Island Veterans. There's a page and a group. The group is where the activity goes on, and I do a daily post about what has happened, and it really helps. And we would take your help in any form or fashion.
Thank you, Rena.
Thank you
so much. So as I was saying, that there's so many needs and there's so many veterans that we could help. And again, if what we want to do is make sure that veterans feel appreciated. When the Vietnam veterans came back, they were like outcasts. We don't want that to happen. And remember, you know, it's not just about fighting overseas. It's also, veterans are, you know, our military is who's called when there's an earthquake, when there's a natural disaster, when there's anything of that needs, you know, whether it's a humanitarian needs out there. So we have to stop looking at a veteran with the guy, the big brawny guy with the rifle. A veteran serves so many facets of our society. And a lot of them are just 17, 18, 19-year-old kids enlisting because they want to be a police officer. They want to be a pilot. They want to advance their career. They want to be patriotic. They're our neighbors. They're our children. They may be your children, your grandchildren. Again, nobody was more shocked when my daughter came home after graduating with a degree in biology, or the bachelor's in biology, telling me she's going to come home, she was going to go enlist. No one was more surprised than me. And I had been a veteran advocate for years. You always think it's someone else's kid. So I'm asking you, each one of you, to do something to raise awareness, to give back to one of the organizations that we highlighted today, to go take your children, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews to the Air Power Museum. Let's not forget our veterans. Let's not forget our servicemen and women. We have a list of donations that we could use to send overseas to those deployed, or if we're, or of course we could also help our service men and women here that need help. And I thank Joe Caggiatori for all he does and his post in Rocky Point at the VFW. Virginia for taking her sorrow and turning it into something beautiful. In memory of Angelo. And for Rena, for turning her home into a kitchen to serve our neighbors, to help our neighbors just get a cooked meal. And I want to especially thank the Melville Chamber of Commerce and the Women's Committee for allowing us to have this event this morning, and for everyone here joining us. And I'd like to end with the poem. And if you look at on the screen, there is a list of the donations of items that we would like to collect. The Air Power Museum is a drop-off place in their gift shop, and also my office in here in Hauppauge. And the name of this poem is In Honor of the Brave. When a veteran or servicemen and women salute the flag, it's has a little bit more meaning to them, because they enlisted, they signed on to protect that flag and what it stands for. And despite all our flaws, this still is a great country. And I hope that there is no blue or red. Everyone today should become united to help each other, because we're all neighbors. And regardless of what your political affiliation, what your political passions are, we all bleed the same. We all mourn our loss, and we all bleed the same. So the poem is called In Honor of the Brave. Hand upon your heart, together we can pledge, in honor of the brave, the living and the dead. In shadows on the flag, their silhouettes you'll see, in stars and stripes that wave for the land of the free. Thank you, everyone. If anyone has any comments, discussions they would like to add, please either enter them into chat, or you're welcome to speak if anyone wants to stay on. Some of you I know have to leave. We're at 9:30, but we'll keep it open for a few more minutes.
I want to step in and say thank you to you, Rosemary, and the committee, Linda Marie Paul, Anna E. DeCanio, Liz Elsesser, my co-chair, Irene Litzes, putting this together. I thank Joe and Virginia for sharing their story, for Rena for coming on and also sharing, and to Julia for giving us some background on what the museum does and the important preservation work of our history. So if anybody has comments that they'd like to share, we, as Rosemary said, we're going to keep the line open for a few more minutes. This is a different program for us to just really educate, honor, and raise awareness. And we're so grateful that all of you participated in this very moving tribute, living tribute to our veterans.
We have some servicemen and women on today, and also some Blue Star parents. A Blue Star parent is someone whose family member is serving or has served, I myself included. So we want to thank them for their service.
John Cohen wants to say something. He's been raising his hand. So, sure. John, do you want to unmute?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Very touching. Joe, thank you. Virginia, thank you. Rosemary, Julia. Susan, of course, thank you. Great, all the time, great stuff. This one touches a nerve, Rosemary. I kind of texted that. My son, you know, the Mets and the Twins were looking at him, and he says, I'm going to war. And that was tough. And what I want to say now, moving fast forward, thank God he's back. He's alive. And he's working between Louisiana and Texas at this point, building homes. It's all about the veterans. He's learned a craft. He is moving forward. His PTSD was astonishing. We even got into a fight, a physical fight. It was insane. He is such a good boy. He was like the mayor of Syosset at one point, and then his whole demeanor changed. I feel your pain, Virginia. I witnessed it, that pain, but thank God he's come through and wants to help other veterans to come through. So as he's building this and as he's moving forward, I want to be able to communicate to Rosemary, Virginia, Joe, and tell him about his progress. And when he's ready to bring this out in the open to other veterans as he's building now, I want you three to know and can pass that message on. Right now, he's in his infancy with his buddy, Dominic, who ran missions with him in Afghanistan. So they're both going together and doing this. And Joe, I'm sure you know, when you're having your veteran that your soldier have your back 24/7, and you make it through, that bond always lasts for lifetime.
That's for sure, John.
Yep. And so we have a bond of veterans here getting together, and he wants to teach the trade. He wants to be a general contractor and teach that trade to veterans. So I'd like us to just keep that in mind, and I will report to the chamber, and I guess to you, Rosemary, because that's I guess that's who I see every time on our video here, and I will do that, and hopefully it can help other veterans coming home with PTSD.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, John.
You please write that down, Rosemary, and just keep that in mind, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. And there's so many other family members feeling the same way today, this morning. So our hearts go out to them, and we hope and pray that they find some peace and solace and get help. Virginia mentioned the Long Island Crisis Center. Please, 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 if you know of anyone that needs assistance, that should be your first phone call. Anyone else like to share?
I'd just like to make a comment, Rosemary, with post-traumatic stress, going around to different areas and going to Albany and DC. We need their help. We need to change some laws. We need to change some statements about post-traumatic stress. It's unfortunate that when these young men and women come home, they have it, they know they have it, but they don't tell you. And they won't go to the VA. They won't tell anyone because they're looking for jobs, whether they're going to be a teacher, policeman, any of these fields as professionals. They don't want that stigma attached to their application. So therefore, they hold it back, and that shouldn't be. We're trying to get that changed. I know Lee Zeldin has a bill in Congress, and he's trying to get it changed so that it's not a stigma and it's not a disease, or they want to quantify it so that they can go forward and receive these jobs. So it's important that we do a full circle and make sure everybody's included in this. And you can see it out there that they don't want to come forward. And that's the biggest problem.
Thanks, Joe. Well, thank you everyone for coming on this morning. We appreciate it. Please reach out to any one of us. Again, if you know of anyone that needs help, if your child is struggling especially, please reach out to Virginia, to Joe, myself. We'll try to get you help. You know, money should not be a factor when someone's life is at stake. I think Virginia went out and purposely told people that don't worry, no questions asked, we'll get you help. And it doesn't have to be at the VA because they don't be labeled. And I think that is the biggest concern. Once you go to the VA, they label you as having problems, and you may be able to get a job working at the police force, or because they don't want you to carry a gun. It's a negative. So they will, and they also too, remember, if they have served, they've been told toughen up, can't show weakness. They've had training, that's the training that they get. Be tough, whatever's going on, keep it to yourself. And that's how you have to live your life. So they don't want to be a burden to the family members. So we have to, again, change the stigma. And I thank Joe and Virginia and Rena and for everyone out there who's done their part to help our veterans. Thank you so much. Tomorrow's Veterans Day. We all honor our veterans on Veterans Day, but we should honor our veterans every day. Thank you. Thank you. Chamber of Commerce. Have a great day. Enjoy this beautiful weather.
Thank you again for attending.
To have this event, and I know that you put a lot into this, and your beautiful poems. We are honored to have you with being part of our committee and to be part of this chamber, and to open up our eyes to a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene.
Really appreciate
that's the great thing about this committee is it is all about education and awareness and collaboration. We can do so much if we band together. We started a project, and that's how I met Joe. And we were able to give away a mortgage-free home to a veteran just because people stepped up. We had interior designers step up and donate and volunteer, contractors volunteer. People will help if they know how to help, if you ask for help. That's what we're asking. We're giving you an outlet, but again, awareness is the biggest thing. I've spoken at many schools, and most children don't know what a Purple Heart is. The Purple Heart is what is awarded when someone is wounded during the service of their country. And yet our children don't know what it is. That's the highest medal. If you ask a veteran what's the highest medal, it's a Purple Heart. Okay, so we need to definitely have more education. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great day, and happy Veterans Day.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
And we're going to be sharing information, and we look forward to continuing the conversation and continuing to see you engaged and involved in the Chamber's events.